welcome to episode 25 of When the Flames Go Up, the ATFC podcast. A new season's upon us. I've not got much to say, really, other than if you want to get in touch with the show, email atfcpodcast@gmail.com. Other than that, we've got a big preview today on the season and the Forest Green game coming up on Saturday. So enjoy and get in touch with the show if you want to. Okay, here we go. The new season is upon us. Later this week, this Saturday, Aldershot entertain Forest Green Rovers, and we'll be discussing the new signings that we've made over the summer and those that have gone. But to kick all the things off, we've got some new signings for the pod as well. So I'm going to come to Charlie first to give a little intro to how he started supporting the Shots, and then pass it on to his right, Guy, who's also with us. So Charlie, after you.
Great, thanks, Will. Thank you for having me on. Being an avid listener of the pod so far. So yeah, great to be here and looking forward to the season ahead. My Shots journey started about 20 years or so ago now, on a cold Tuesday night at the recreation ground in a game at home to Margate. We lost 2-0, I think. It might have been 2-1, but we definitely lost. So no wonder I came back. The connection was that my older brother and grandfather are big Chelsea fans. And obviously, as you know, Chelsea reserves used to play at the Rec quite a lot. So we went a few times down on Monday nights, I think it was, to watch them. Before my granddad said to me, "Do you want to come down and watch the Shots?" And in my naive state, I agreed. And to be honest, I was pretty hooked from that point onwards. So that was in the 2003-04 season, which was the first season back in the nationwide conference as it was back then. And yeah, that's how my journey began. Been supporting the Shots ever since. From near, from far. I kind of grew up in the Farnham, Godalming area, and then went off to uni and kind of, I wouldn't say abandoned, but wasn't able to go to as many Shots games as I can make to now. And now I'm based back in South London. So yeah, that's kind of my history of how I became a Shots fan.
Lovely stuff. And come over to you, Guy.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me and letting me reflect and reminisce on the misery that is being an Aldershot supporter, because I'm going to show you my age a little bit by when I became a fan, and it was back in October 1986, which is the first game I got taken to by my grandfather, which was Aldershot against Burnley. Still remember it. We were 2-0 winners. So every time I see Burnley playing in the Premier League, I'm always reminded we actually beat them. It's obviously I have a family connection as well to the town. My grandparents both live there. My mother and uncle were born there. My uncle still lives there. And when I go down, which is very rarely because I'm living in Europe at the moment, I usually try and go with my uncle and sort of reminisce a bit. Obviously, it's a challenge. It's become a lot easier following Aldershot, over the years, particularly sort of living abroad. I mean, I remember, sort of first following them, being in the fourth division. I mean, at least they used to put the results in the papers. When they then went bankrupt, if you remember, a few years later in 92, 93, it was hard to find the results. You were away for a while, you couldn't get them. And then, of course, once they got now, of course, conference, and it's, National League, we should call it, and being back in League Two for at least 5 years, at least it was nice being able to get the results. And of course, now you actually get to watch the games, although it is a bit of a punishment at times.
Yeah, we found out the kind of quality of the streams as well. We've discussed on the pod. Yeah, great, thank you guys. And one of the biggest re-signings for Aldershot is, of course, Julian back on the pod for another season. How are you doing, Julian?
Well, thanks for signing me back up. I know there's a lot of negotiation in place, and it was close to being given a free transfer, but managed to convince you to get me back on. So really appreciate that. No, really good. Seems like an eternity since we last spoke, but really looking forward to this new season. I know we're going to talk about some of those signings and pre-season form, etc. in a moment, but got that enthusiasm, got the old Shots specs on, which says that we're going to win the league by 10 clear points by March. So yeah, feeling really good.
Nice, nice. That's the enthusiasm we need. Well, I'm going to start with you then, Julian. What was your if we take away Aldershot from your summer, what was your favourite moment from the summer so far?
That's a really good question. I think it was probably I went on holiday. Went to Florida for a week and went with my son, which was an adventure in itself. So there's no girls, just the boys holiday. You know, we could eat pizza at midnight if we wanted to, that sort of thing. But when we were out there, my son said, "Let's hire a Mustang for a few days," and I thought, why not? You know, let's do it. So there's me and him driving around, arm out the window, listening to heavy metal music, driving around in a Mustang convertible, not actually thinking about the shots at all. So that's probably my moment of the summer, Will.
Nice. And Charlie, come to you. How did you escape the shots over the summer?
Well, I managed to escape the shots by fully engrossing myself in the Euros, to be honest with you, Will. So that would have been the highlight of my summer, despite obviously some dodgy performances and a pretty sad ending. I was lucky enough to go out there for the first game, which, when you think about the three or so that followed, was actually pretty much a highlight with a 1-0 win. But yeah, in terms of the best moment, it has to be that Ollie Watkins winner against Netherlands right at the end. That was very much a highlight for me, and it's when I truly started to believe. Although sadly, it didn't end the way we all wanted, but it was nice while it lasted.
Lovely stuff. I knew the Euros would come up. It was either that Bellingham goal or the Watkins goal.
Well, that's basically mine, I have to say. I mean,
Sorry, guy.
That's probably my summer moment, footballing related, of course. But because well, we've just relocated, so we were living in Belgium up until last week, and we're now sort of in eastern France near the Swiss border. But one of the nice things about watching England games was there weren't that many people in the pub, so you could actually get a drink, sit down at a table, and not be sort of have people throwing beer all over you. So I suppose that was attractive in itself. And I guess just the Jude Bellingham goal, sort of just when it looked like England was about to go out, and we were sort of being treated to yet another one of those it could have been moments, to actually see that sort of suddenly sort of take place in the last couple of minutes. Yeah, it kept the dream alive for a little bit longer. Unlike you, Charlie, I'm not as optimistic about England's chances, but it was nice to just at least live for another day, I think.
Exactly. Enjoy the ride a bit longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you say about walking into a pub and just finding a screen, that was the hardest thing I think the whole summer. Trying to get anywhere in London that had space for 6 people or 8 people with a screen. Yeah, they were just selling any seat that was near, like even if it was 45-degree angle of a TV, like, and selling it as a screen table. Awful. My favorite moment was, and I don't know this guy's name, but I met someone with a shot shirt at Glastonbury, and that was a good moment. About 7 pints deep, spotted it from a mile away. I thought, it's not another Palace shirt, is it? Surely not. And no, it wasn't. It was a Shots fan, and I can't remember his name. So if you're listening, let me know. It was a great shirt.
Which season? This season's or?
No. It was one of the Charters Peugeot ones. I'm trying to remember which one. I think Stripes. I'm thinking Stripes. Yeah, a great kit. But I wasn't wearing my Shots shirt at the same time, which would have been a great moment. But unfortunately, I'm just showing off that I went to Glastonbury. Sorry. Right. Let's move on, I guess, and start talking about the shots. Let's probably just throw in with the pre-season stuff, and we can cover kind of more of the signings later on. But I'm going to come to you first, Julian. Who would you say is your best or your favourite signing or re-signing for the shots ahead of this new season?
It's a really good question. There's been obviously a lot of ins and outs over the summer. I have to say that the last week or so has given me real cause for optimism with Tetek re-signing and James Henry as well. Sounds like a really interesting one. He's 35. Is he past it? I'm not sure. He was playing in League One last season, although it was mainly from the subs bench. But from looking at the comments from the Oxford supporters, they're saying we've got a really good player there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Tetek back in the team and James Henry.
Great. Yeah, I feel Tetek may be a popular choice here, but Charlie, I'll come to you next for your favourite signing or re-signing.
Yeah, I think for me, one of my favourite signings, and the one I'm most looking forward to seeing play regularly actually is one of the first signings we made, and that'll be Luke Jenkins. I think he's just exactly the type of caliber of player we need to be signing at the Shots, on a 2-year deal as well, I think. So, obviously he looks like he had a really good season in the National South last year. I think it sounds like he was coveted by quite a few other National League and some Football League clubs as well. So it sounds like we really beat off competition to get him. And I'm just excited that we've signed a young up and coming centre back as well, because obviously defence was probably it was our weakness last season. So very much looking forward to seeing Luke Jenkins play. I think it'd be great for us.
Yeah, you stolen my one. Yeah, there we go.
Just listening to them. Obviously, I was going to say Tetek is great having him back, and obviously what Charlie's just said. So I'm going to just I just back you up on what you say, but I think the other things that are also quite interesting to watch out for, maybe Lachlan Bird, the new Australian signing, because you're absolutely right, Charlie. I think what we really do need to do is boost the defense somewhat. If we can do that and we're pumping in the goals at the other end, then fantastic. But also, and I think it's also, maybe sort of a bit, maybe under the radar a bit, but the fact that we've got these 2 new goalkeeper signings as well, which I think, are they good enough to challenge for the first place spot? I'm not sure, but it's good to have them there, sort of giving, Van Stappenshaw a bit of a, give a bit of a push.
Yeah, definitely. It's something we highlighted last year. Certainly, especially that time where we had the lone goalkeeper come in, and then we had, it felt like Geordie had to prove himself in those next couple of games after the loan had finished. Yeah, those are all. I was going to mention Lachlan Bird just because we've got an Aussie from Perth, and that looks good on a team sheet.
Great mullet as well.
Superb mullet. Yeah. I guess we re-sign Josh Barrett? He was already signed, or was he re-signed?
I think he counts.
Yeah, he came.
That's a re-sign.
He was already with us. I think he came in January, didn't he?
Yes,
but he's an ex-Kings Lynn, so there does seem to be that posse around in the team, doesn't there?
Yeah, so I'm excited to see a fully fit full season of Josh Barrett, and I think we'll see some. Well, I hope to see some special moments from him, because from the little we've seen him and the kind of small moments that we've seen him, we know he can produce those. So here's hoping. And yeah, the next kind of question, I guess, is what kind of position do you think we're strongest in, and where are we weakest? Julian, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I really like the central midfield position this season. I think it was 2 seasons ago where we set up against Solihull Moors and got stuffed 4-1, and I think Joe Partington was our only midfielder at the time, and I thought at that stage we were going to really struggle, which we did. But this season, we've got 5 really good central midfielders in play, and if perhaps last season the new signing Maggio had been injured, we would have all been really worried. But you can afford to carry one of those, I think. So central midfield is feeling really strong for me at the moment. And of course, you've got other options. You can always throw Frost in there as well, if need be. There's options all over the place for central midfield. So I'm really confident with that. Weakest area, it's a bit of a tricky one, but I would have said I'm a little bit worried about where the goals are going to come from this season. But having said that, with the Corbett signing from Peterborough, he could quite easily be a 15-20 goal striker if we give him the right service. We haven't seen James Henry yet, and I'd like to see Ollie Bray being given a run as well, although he's obviously just been injured for a few weeks. But his game in pre-season when he started, there was something there, I think, which was promising. Haddy up front is desperate for a goal. He just needs a goal, and once he scores, I think then he will produce as well. But yeah, if you were to ask me where my concerns are, then I guess it's where are the goals going to come from. And that's only based on what I've seen in pre-season so far.
Great. And you, Charlie, where do you see the strengths and the weaknesses so far?
Completely agree with Julian, to be honest with you. I think, even though we shipped a lot of goals last season, I think a big part of the reason we shipped a lot of goals was because the defence weren't very well protected by the centre midfield. Um, there was probably a lack of energy and a lack of competition in there at times, I would say. So yeah, to go into the season with five really viable options, many of whom who can play other positions like Tyler Frost, for example. I think we're looking really strong there, which is great. Another area I'd like to flag, which I think is quite exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing, is the link up between Harfield and Ryan Jones, left centre back, left wing back. I think that could be a real threat for us this season. Obviously, Harfield and Glover linked up really well at times last season, but I think Jones looks like he might be a little bit more natural than Glover on that side. So I think we could be quite strong going forward on that side as well. So yeah, I think I agree with Julian, but yeah, looking forward to seeing that left side as well.
Nice. And for you, Guy, how do you see it?
Well, I mean, rather than I guess for me, the main concern is really the defense. Since we leaked a lot of goals last season, we were scoring a lot, but we were also giving away a lot as well. I think, and yet we also had a couple of pretty solid players who were playing in defense. I think we really, we did sort of miss him when, our Tanzanian friend disappeared off of the African Cup of Nations. And I'm not sure whether we've actually filled his role yet, and that's why I'm curious about some of these new signings that have come in, whether they're going to be sufficiently gelled together to be able to seal up that defense, because really that to me is the priority. I think you're quite, as Julian says, where are the goals coming from, particularly when we look from last season, and maybe they did start to drop off towards the end a bit, but I think really we really need to be sort of solid at the back.
I think, Guy, what you said there is really interesting. For me, last year, I think we lacked that sort of putting your body on the line, in front of the ball. Cian Harries, as good as he was, isn't that sort of player. Kobe Rowe, again, not quite the one way you can see him throwing himself in front of the ball. And what I really like about Luke Jenkins and our Aussie friends too is that their supporters from last season are saying exactly that. They did put their bodies on the line. They were the ones throwing themselves in front of that 95th minute shot from the edge of the box. And I think you're absolutely right, Guy. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what particularly those two and a fully fit Macoma as well is going to bring.
Yeah. And can I just also add to that and say, I think the other thing that that stands out for me and you guys talked about it on the podcast last year, so it's no surprise, is the disciplinary record. I mean, we had real problems, towards the to the latter half of the season, once sort of those yellow cards starting totting up. And I think what we really need to see is a lot more discipline from the players this year, and that's got to come from the top.
I think we were top of the league on that one, Guy.
Yeah, not the best league position to be in on that.
But we have lost our best or worst disciplinarian, so lost that one. Tolaj was definitely up there as well, wasn't it? I've forgotten his name. Josh Stokes. Trying to get him out of my brain.
Course, yeah, Josh Yellowcard Stokes. Yeah.
No, I've remembered him again. All the memories flooding back. Oh no. So yeah, probably worth remembering who we actually lost over the summer. So let's read through these. Always a good bit of fun. This is from Transfermarkt. I'm pretty sure it's all right. But Stuart O'Keefe, he's gone to Chatham. Kwame Thomas is at Ebbsfleet. Cian Harris at Woking. So those two we'll be seeing them next season. Tommy Willard finally made his move to Worthing after his loan appearance there last year. Ethan Burnett, Zane Walker, Mason Obeng, Alex McAllister, Jasper Shake, Finley Weston, Kobe Rowe, as we mentioned, they've all gone. Laurent Tolaj is obviously the big one that we were kind of holding out hope for. He's gone to Port Vale. And who else have we lost? Ryan Glover has not signed a contract with us. And neither has Jonathan Page, who joined us in a kind of training role, it seemed, when we needed a player. Grand. Yes. Well, yeah, we've mentioned most of the new signings. Who haven't we mentioned? We haven't mentioned Hayden Vaughan, who we signed from Bracknell.
Mhm.
And then obviously the two keepers that Guy mentioned was Pat Nash from Farnham Town and Marcus Dewhurst from Wealdstone. Who else have we got that we haven't mentioned? Cameron Hargreaves is obviously a Kings Lynn player. We couldn't go a transfer window without signing one of those. And Emmanuel Madja from Banbury. So that, I think, seals up everyone that we've mentioned so far.
Can I just say one other thing? It's what's also, because you're referencing transfer market, it's interesting when you look at the data as well, because there's been a lot of movement. With Aldershot, one of the bigger moves back and forth, but we are one of the larger squads as well, and also one of the younger ones, which I thought was quite interesting, particularly when you think about this most recent signing of James Henry, who, as Julian pointed out, being at 35 seems to sort of go, cut against sort of the focus on youth. So I was really intrigued by that as a transfer. Whether it was sort of just trying to bring in a little bit more experience, sort of to the team.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he was always on their radar, but yeah, or he just became available and he was like, well, we may as well have some more experience if they're available. But it didn't seem to be we're going to get a mixture of experience and youth. It was it's a pretty young list of signings. Yeah,
I think it seems like the latter with Henry, to be honest. I think that for me, that kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. I think Tommy said he'd been training with the team for a couple of weeks. Maybe it was a case of his availability just popping up because he's obviously got a great CV. I'm actually really interested to see where he'll play because to me, it seems like Josh Barrett's going to be starting behind the strikers. And I think James Henry has always been a bit of a winger. So maybe he'll be playing more centrally. Maybe he'll alternate with Barrett or drop in a bit more. But I think it's an interesting signing. But I'm intrigued to see where he'll actually fit.
Could be two number 10s, number 10 behind Corbett, possibly.
Yeah, just give us a bit more flexibility, I suppose. Obviously, I'm not sure if we're going to change formation, but if we need to in a certain situation, it would be good to have a right winger and a left winger or right midfield, left midfield that can hold those positions if we need to switch back. Although, as we found out last season, I think we are steadfastly 5 at the back or 3 at the back, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so early predictions for the season. It's a bit hard to know. I've not seen any preseason games. I've avoided it at all costs. Didn't even look at the Birmingham game. I've wanted to see the result and kind of get a puzzled look on my face. But we're going to come to you first, Julian, because you've already mentioned that you're, got your shots glasses on and think we're going to finish, 10 points ahead of everyone. How do you think the shots will fare this season? And I'm going to ask you for your prediction for your shots final position.
Wow, put me on the spot. Well, if you talk to the bookies, then they think we're going to finish 18th. So I guess they're putting their faith in an 18th position because we've lost the goals that we were scoring last year. So without Tollage and Stokes. So if you go to William Hill, you'll get 20-1. If you go to the Labrooks, you'll get 33-1. But for me, I think we're going to do better than that. I think, as Guy and Charlie have already said, we've made some really good additions. Midfield is looking stronger, I think, than last year. Defence is looking stronger, and potentially with, as I said already, Corbett and Henry in there, the attack could produce some goals. And I think the goalkeeping department is stronger too. So. Just on your point earlier on, Guy, I think Dewhurst is going to be the number 1. I've seen him in pre-season and he does look good, so wouldn't surprise me at all if he starts as our number 1. And I think he's going to give us a little bit more of a solid, confidence-based defence. So if you put me on the spot, then I think we are going to finish 6th. And with regard to the strength of the league, there isn't going to be a Chesterfield. But having said that, some of the teams that have come up have done some really good business. So Braintree keep buying players, which I think, we could have done with him. So they're going to be strong. I think Tamworth are going to be strong too, and Yeovil will be strong too. So the bottom end of the table is going to be quite interesting. But I've got confidence. Well, I think we're going to finish 6th.
Great. And do you share that confidence, Charlie?
Um, yeah, it's always so tough to call, isn't it? Obviously with the season changing so much year on year, it's always difficult to say. I'd say if you asked me this time last year, I was very pessimistic going into the season with the amount of unknown quantities we had coming into the side. This year, I am definitely more confident, but I think replicating last season's form, where I think we shocked the division, will be challenging. I have full faith in Tommy, and I think we'll still be in for what I would consider a pretty good season and a steady season. But I think again we might just fall short of the playoffs, just in terms of that quality, especially up top. So I think we'll probably finish maybe around the 9th, 10th mark, maybe on similar points to last season. I think much fewer goals scored, conceding much less as well, I imagine. But I'm just a bit worried that there's kind of quite a few big hitters in the league this season that might just be too strong for us.
That's fair. That's fair. And Guy, you're going to sit somewhere in the middle of Julian and Charlie's prediction?
Yeah, I mean, for me, yes, I mean, we all enjoyed last season after sort of the after the previous years of underperformance, and so it was such a joy to experience that, and even just missing off the playoff spot, I think we felt it was a season done well. I suspect probably we won't necessarily make the playoffs again. We might just miss out, but I think the most important, but the thing that matters to me more is that we have a club, right? Because I'm one of those fans. I've been around now for 40 odd years with the club, and having seen the sort of the twice being folded up in 92 and then sort of administration in 2013, because we don't want to be one of those clubs that basically spends beyond our means, like unfortunately Woking have been doing and did very well 2 seasons ago, and then last year almost facing relegation towards the end. We just don't want to be in that position. And so I look at the transfers we've been making. I see that we seem to be living within our means as much as we can. Obviously there are losses every year, but they're manageable at the moment, and I think that's more important. I mean, to me, that the club continues is a priority. Anything else is a bonus to me. So if we make the playoffs, fantastic. But I suspect we'll probably just fall short, slightly short. It's always that sort of last bit in the. I mean, really, I guess also depends where we are when it comes to the January transfer market. Whether we're, because that's always the dilemma, right? If you do incredibly well with this bunch of players, then suddenly, of course, other clubs are going to come looking and wanting to poach, and then of course, all that hard work, that good work that's been done in the first half of the season can be undone. So we want to be I don't think we want to be too much on people's radars like we were last year. If we can sort of just keep things bubbling along nicely, but sort of and then sort of really give it a big push at the end of the season, I think that would do me nicely.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. I also share that same view that anything is a bonus. I guess the bonus in my head is always the FA Trophy. That always seems to stick out in my head.
Yeah.
Where would I be happy finishing if we got to the FA Trophy final with a chance to win at Wembley? Yeah, interesting one. I guess my prediction, because it's weird, as you were saying, Charlie, about kind of the goals conceded will be less and the goals scored will be less. No, yes, that's right. That sounds counterintuitive, but yeah, I'm excited to see how many goals we do score, because I do think that the same, we know how we're going to play, and I think that formation just brings out the best in attacking players. And I think we have. I mean, obviously we've still got Jack Barham, who's bound to score, I think, 15. We've got Kai Corbett, as Julian said, can score 15. I think we still do have players that can score 20 plus goals a season, and with players like that and a system like that, I think you're always going to be in the top half. So yeah, I'm excited. I think we will probably be on the cusp of the playoffs, and I think it'll be that 7th place, by hook or by crook, by a point or by some goals. Hopefully goals in a different way this time, where it's someone else has got a minus goal difference going into the last 5 games of the season. they're not scrambling around for 4-0 wins. So yeah, I'll say seventh as my early prediction. This will all change after 4:45 on Saturday, of course. Grand. Well, I suppose let's look ahead to Saturday specifically. There's a lot of unknowns about our opponents, Forest Green, who came down from League Two last season. Julian, what are your initial thoughts on the season opener? I mean, it's quite a big game. It looks like I don't know, a nice ding dong battle to start the season off with.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Will, I know we can't pay too much attention to pre-season form, but Forest Green have been struggling in pre-season. They actually lost to AFC Tottenham at the weekend, who we know of. Or I don't know if you know, but Charlie Austin's just gone there, I think. So, fair side there, but they did lose to them. They have made some really good signings over the summer. Their intent is to go straight back up. Three signings that stand out for me. They've signed Ben Tozer from Wrexham, the big centre half who's got a throw like I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a huge throw. Adam May has joined them, ex-Aldershot player, great number 10, scores goals, lots of experience in the EFL, particularly with Cambridge. And Liam Sercombe's joined them as well. Again, a really vastly experienced player who knows what it's like to win games. So they're not messing around. They are looking to go straight back up. They are third favourites with the bookies, just behind Barnet and some reason Oldham, which I do not understand. Seeing as they haven't signed anybody, they'll be even worse this season than last, I think. But I think it's going to be a really close game, but I think we're going to win. I might give it a bit of the Charlie effect. I think it could be a 1-0.
Nice. And Charlie, what do you reckon about Forest Green first up?
Yeah, well, I really agree with Julian. I think they've made some really good signings, and it's interesting that you mentioned Ben Tozer's long throw, because I'm already worrying about the aerial bombardment that's going to come Saturday with that. But to be honest, I think it's the best time to play a team like Forest Green. They've just been relegated. Quite a few new players. I think they'll be really strong throughout the season. But I think with teams like this, it's best to get them out of the way early. And I'm actually feeling quite confident. I think we'll get the win as well. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think we might, as I say, we might struggle a bit with the aerial bombardment element. But I can see us winning 2-1. And I'm feeling quite good about it.
Nice. And Guy, you also optimistic about Saturday?
I mean, one is always optimistic at the start of the season, right? Because it's when there's no points on the board and nothing's gone wrong yet. So, I mean, this is as happy as I get, I suppose. And then, after the first 1 or 2 weeks, then it all sort of starts to kick in, and the reality, oh God, the season's finally started. This is the moment we can dream. I'm not going to make predictions about the actual score. I mean, I'll just say that I suspect maybe we might win it. I think maybe by the odd goal. But that said, I mean, looking at Forest Green, I mean, I looking at looking at the data that's there on Transfer Market, for example. I mean, they've done a lot of business, as you've alluded to. I mean, they've brought in some interesting signings, but there's also been a lot of players that have gone, understandably, after a relegation. But it's left the club. They seem to be the team with the greatest value in our division. So whether that actually means anything in terms of the quality that's on show that they're going to bring on Saturday is going to be interesting, because I'm trying to find a proxy for where our particular team's going to be placed. Is it could the value of the team make a difference here? And if that's the case, Forest Green are basically number one in our division, despite the number of departures that have gone. But I'm optimistic. I think from what I've seen, at least just from the highlights of the preseason, it looks like the team's starting to gel together. But even though you can never fully tell what's going to happen, we're scoring, and it seems to be different players, so that's encouraging. And that's also the last thing I also want to, I should have flagged up earlier as well. The thing that was encouraging about last season was how many different players were scoring as well, wasn't it? We weren't reliant on just one player. So even if we don't get, even if the numbers end up being less, as Charlie suggests might happen. As long as it's being spread around the team, that's got to be good for us. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, looking back to Forest Green, I mean, I was meant to look at this head-to-head record all the way back, but I can't find it all the way back. But we haven't beaten them at home at least since before 2013. A lot of draws in there, and we haven't beaten them since that BT Sport 3 goals in 9 minutes turnaround, which was in 2016, was it? No, 2015, with Tristan Plummer scoring in the driving rain in Stroud. Where is it? Where's the actual place? What is it called? Is it near Stroud?
Nailsworth, isn't it?
Is it Nailsworth? Yeah.
Nailsworth, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, so I'll not be looking forward to the trip, the return trip, but we'll be looking forward to this one. It should be a nice day as well. Looks like the sun will be out. Are there any question marks over the starting lineup, and any kind of, obviously, Julian, you mentioned that you think Dewhurst will be number one, but are there any surprises that you think might be sprung in terms of Aldershot's starting 11?
Yeah, I think I was on one of the Facebook pages earlier on this week with my starting 11 prediction, and there were a few sort of disagreements with me, but I've put in that the back three will be Harfield, Macoma, and Bird. I think he will get ahead of Jenkins because he's played more minutes in pre-season. So I think Jenkins will be on the bench. Two midfielders, Whittingham and Hargreaves. They've put the numbers in pre-season. And what a great thing to have Tetek on the bench to bring him on in the second half. So I'm really looking forward to that. Jones, as Charlie said, Jones has nailed the left side. He will be our regular starter. Frosty on the right side. Barrett's nailed his place as well. And then I think Haddy will start up front with Kai Corbett, with, again, James Henry on the bench only because he's not had the minutes under his belt for pre-season. So I'm pretty confident that will be the starting 11. The interesting thing this year with the subs is that you can name 7 subs now, and you've got the option of putting 5 subs on at any particular time. So if, as you said, Guy, we are winning 2-1 with 5 minutes to go, then we could well be having 5 substitutions in that last 5 minutes.
Is it 5? We get 5 now.
I believe so, yeah.
It's 5, but in three different increments, if that makes sense, right? So you can't do 5 subs individually. It has to be in 3 different.
I thought it'd just been expanded to 7, and then next season starts the 5. But I've maybe just.
I couldn't find that, Charlie. I couldn't find the 3 increments. I did read somewhere that you've got the option to put 5 on 5 separate occasions, but
really?
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong. To be fair,
I guess they'll be following the kind of UEFA Windows thing.
Yeah, it makes sense to have 3 windows because, like you said, you'd be time wasting galore in the last few minutes if you're single goal and then putting 5 subs on each every 30 seconds.
Oh, here we go.
I wonder if that'll last the whole season or whether it'll be like the added time fiasco at the start of last season. If you remember that, I remember the opening day against Oxford City with about 10 minutes in the first half, 10 minutes in the second, and that lasted about 3 weeks.
And yeah, this is ironic because everyone always complains about not getting enough football, and we give them all the football they actually entitled to, and they don't want it.
I actually agree, Guy. I quite liked it, but maybe it's because we scored deep into first half added time against Oxford City on the first game.
True.
But
there is still which game was that? I think it was a sort of in November, I think, when we sort of pulled the two goals from being 1-0 down from the first minute. That was the moment I started to think the season's starting to change for us.
That was a great day.
That was unreal. Yeah.
Well, as I follow it from abroad, so I had to watch it through the streaming service. But my long-suffering wife now has Aldershot inflicted upon her. Hearing cheering coming from the sitting room. Anyway.
So it is 7 substitutes available. 5 can be used with referees' permission. I presume it's the same Windows as UEFA stuff, where it's you can't just I don't know. I presume you can just bring on all 5 if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
But
It's quite vague.
well,
Yeah.
National League being vague, you're joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be exciting. But that does kind of help us with we've got a slightly bigger squad, definitely.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does sort of make for, a case for the larger squads now, doesn't it? So, and it's interesting because we're one of the, I mean, such as it is, sort of the value of our squad is on the lower end in the division as well. But then I guess a lot of that, I suppose, is due down to a lot of free transfers, but also I guess young players. So, this is there's a lot of potential. I think that sort of is floating around our team. So yeah,
I think that is generally the way that transfer market do things, and it's a breakout season at Aldershot that will bump up your value by about 3 times as much as you were the season before. I mean, someone like Emmanuel Madja, at Banbury his value would be low, but he scores a couple of goals for Aldershot or something, and it's a different story. Grand. Well, should we do a little score prediction for Saturday? I think everyone's actually said their scores. Hold on. What did you say, Julian?
1-0.
1-0, didn't you? Okay. Charlie, you went
2-1 Aldershot.
Okay. Guy, you going?
I think it will be. I'm not gonna. I'll just say Aldershot will win by the odd goal.
Oh, nice. All right. Oh, we'll win. It's got 2-0 written all over it, this one.
And I think if you're looking at all of those sort of previous head-to-heads, I mean, if the most recent one was 2015-16, doesn't really tell us very much now, does it?
No, but I just always see them as I just then categorize them as a bogey team,
but they are also to be fair, that also they are not just a team to watch in terms of having come down from Division 2. They are obviously the supposedly the most ecological team in the league, and not talking just National League. It's also when they were in the Football League as well. So all power to them as well. So I know you said you're dreading the trip back, but I mean, if you do go, do let us know how it went. I mean,
yeah, well, it might be our last chance to see it, to be honest, before they get the new stadium, the one made out of wood, which
that's going to be in Stroud, isn't it? That one.
I think that's
where
where
I'm
I'm getting confused.
Yeah,
because it's near. It's just off like the Big A road. Well, the only road into Stroud. Yeah. Nice. Right. We'll end it there. Thank you, Charlie. And thank you, Guy.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, Julian.
No problem.
We'll be back probably next week to talk about hopefully a win for Aldershot against Forest Green at the weekend. Thanks for listening to episode 25 of When the Flames Go Up. We'll be back again next week to talk about the next games coming up. We've got a Saturday and a Tuesday game to preview next time. So, yes, thanks for listening. Goodbye.